Scratcher variant, but this one's the Minnow. Who's seen the Belly Scratcher Minnow before? Rich has seen it. It's in the fully milled catalog, right?
Yes.
Yes. And you better have ordered some.
What is that?
It's called the Belly Scratcher Minnow.
Oh, fly fish food.
So we have stuff to do the low fat minnow as well too, which is another really good bait fish pattern. But the Belly Scratcher is quickly becoming one of our favorites. Everyone we show this pattern to as well, or sell them to, or have them fish, they realize that it's a really, really effective pattern. So, and the good thing is it really doesn't take a lot of time to tie. Very simple. So we're going to start out with a Gamakatsu B10S hook, size 1. And this one, like the Belly Scratcher Sculpin, uses that weighting system with the beads on the belly of the hook. So before we start anything, we're just going to take some of this holographic cactus chenille. Now, Rich has this, I think, in one of those bins, but this is a really versatile material. We use it on a lot of different patterns. The first thing you do, we're just going to make a little bump of chenille in the back of the fly. Get that out of the way, and then we're going to take our wire that we're going to put the beads on. Put that on. Then we will wrap the chenille forward. And the chenille's kind of a, I guess it doesn't show up a whole lot on this pattern. So it's not super critical that it's perfect, but it's kind of hard to screw up chenille on a hook. Now, let me find some of these tungsten beads first and seal them all. And I'm just going to take 2 4.6 millimeter beads and stick them on here. I think I have some gold ones in there, but the copper ones were the first ones that I pulled out, so that's what I'm going to use. So again, you double over the wire, and that's enough weight to really keel this fly, keep it where we want it. Now it's a zonker style pattern, so it uses a zonker strip, but you notice we didn't tie that in yet. A lot of the patterns I've seen tied with zonkers they'll be tied in the back and then counter wrapped with wire through the zonker strip, and that's really not super necessary. What I do, let me find my zonker strips. So Hairline came out with some strips called micro pulsator strips. You seen those? So it's a thin cut zonker strip, and as much as I really like magnum cut and regular cut zonker strips, when you get those in the water, unless they're pretty long, they really don't move as well as like a normal zonker strip or a thin cut zonker strip. So I switched to these micro pulsator strips for this fly, and it really moves well in the water. And this one I think is like black barred grizzly or something like that. But just find a color. They have a whole bunch of cool colors, like millions of colors, maybe trillions. Right?
Easily. They are hard to keep track of in stock.
Right. So what I'm going to do now is I basically want the same length of the hook coming out the back of the fly. So I'm going to measure it just with my thumb, and then I'm going to come in here and just puncture that with the hook, take that out of the vise, stick it back in, And now the hook is what keeps that back portion down. I mean, it's going to be locked down better than any thread wrap. And then I'll just tie that down in the front. So that's how we do our zonker strip on there. A little bit of ninja wizardry there. Okay, the only other part left for this is to make a head. Now, this is truly what Bruiser Blend is designed for. All that other stuff is just kind of, you know, it works that way, but it's not the easiest to use. But this is what really makes Bruiser Blend shine. This color that I have is kind of a dark brownish gray with gold and UV highlights. It's called Alpha Wolf. It's my favorite color. So I had to give it a very majestic name. Not really, that's kind of dorky, but. So I'm going to preen a bunch of that. And this fly really doesn't look like much until we get it finished, and then it really takes shape. Dave Best hates this fly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got it basically preened. Now, I'm not going to tie that in right in the middle of this clump of dubbing. I'm going to kind of tie it in a little bit short here, just with 3 or 4 or 5 wraps. And just let that sit just like that. Then I'll turn it upside down. And this color doesn't have a cool name. It's just called cream, boring old cream. And I'll do the same thing on the bottom. So we've got those 2 tied in, and now I'm going to take the top section and pull that back, bring my thread in front of it, and then grab both of those, and then build up a bit of a thread wrap right there. And then we'll whip finish. So the fly is basically tied. But now we're going to doctor it up and make it look like a minnow. Okay, so we're going to take this fancy finger and we're going to brush it out. Now with just a stroke of my fingers like that, now you can see it start to take shape like a minnow. Okay, and it also has kind of a tall profile. So this is designed to be kind of like a chub or a whitefish or something like that. But now we need to put some eyes on it. So Hairline came out with like the ultimate eye color. I think, do they call it 3D holographic eyes? And the color is called Super Pearl. If I could get it open. And this size is 1/4 inch. But the thing about these eyes is they kind of take the shape of the color of anything that you're going to put them on. Okay? So before I put those on, I'm going to color up this fly a little bit. And I'm going to use these chart pack markers. I also use Sharpies. But I'm just going to take, I'm not going to use dark brown, I'm going to use like a sepia brown color. And I'm just going to color the very top of this with this brown marker. And then I'm going to take my fingers and kind of blend it a little bit. So you can see how that kind of gives a little bit more depth to that. And then I'll take the black and just make a really thin stripe down the top, just to darken that up a little bit. Like that. And then take this is like a yellowish color, they call it goldenrod. And just put some right here on the throat of this fly. And it goes on pretty thick, so then I'm going to take my fingers and blend that in. See how that kind of worked out there? Now, this is another thing that, touch it. Another thing that I've spent a lot of time on is the best adhesive to put eyes on, okay?
Yeah.
Who's fished a fly, they've worked on hard, they stick eyes on, and then the eyes fall off, right? Fly still technically works. Charlie Craven put me on to Mender. Rich has some big bottles of it. And it's a crazy, weird glue. Well, it looks like I gotta clean it out. This is another thing about Mender, is it will gob up like that, okay? And a lot of people would just take that and they throw away the bottle because it's dried up on the tip. Well, it's like a latex material. So if I just take that section that dried up and pull that out, and then I'll come in here and get it out of my tip, it all just balls right up, comes out. I should be back in business. Yeah, I'd say. So see how that got all over my hands? I wanted to get some on my fingers on purpose because it's a really weird glue. If you just rub it like that, it's a silicone glue and it just balls up and it doesn't stick to my hands, okay? But it does stick to fibers like this. And the key to this glue is that, whoa, I got it everywhere. They have a vacuum here, right? The key to this glue is that it stays flexible once it dries. So if you think about it, you're fishing that fly and you smack it on a rock, that shock is usually what separates the eye from the super glue that you're using to hold it. If you're using UV resin to put eyes on, you shine a light on it, well, the light can't get behind the eye where it needs to be most. So I use UV resin if I'm coating the whole head, basically making a solid head of resin. But this stuff is the best to just stick on eyes with. How are we doing? You guys can still see that, right? And the lighting here kind of makes it super bright, but you'll be able to see the true colors once I pass it around. So I turn it up on its side like this. And this is a loon applicator. So you can just buy this empty bottle. And I take the Mender, put it in this so that I can use these applicator tips to apply the glue. If you don't do that, it can be really tough to work with. So once I have that there, I'm just going to take one of these eyes, just going to drop it right there in place. And I'm not going to squeeze on it yet. I put that in there, I let it soak in. So now I have both of those eyes on there, and if I had tweezers, I just barely hold them with the tweezers. I wouldn't squish very hard. I'm just going to do that with my fingers, and that'll help to set those up. So you kind of hold on to them until they bond to the middle core of your fly, and it shouldn't take super long to do that. All right, we're there now. So anyway, I used a little bit too much on one side of the glue, but that's fine. And the cool thing about this fly is you can, just like the belly scratcher sculpin, if you want it to be super heavy, you can tie it with a whole bunch of beads. If you want it to be really light, you can use minimal amount of beads. And the story behind this one is a good buddy of mine, Brian Gregson. Anyone know Brian Gregson? He's a staff photographer for Patagonia. It's a really good buddy of mine. But they were going to Argentina and they needed a fly to catch big brookies with. And so he said, I need a small bait fish, but it's super, super heavy. So I went to the vise, and he always has me do these weird tasks for him. So I did it. I did it with a short shanked hook and two 5.5 millimeter tungsten beads for the belly. And I didn't really hear anything from him. He went down there and he sent me a picture of like a 23-inch brook trout, because the river had holes that were super deep, but were only like 6 feet long. It was kind of a weird structure of the river, so they needed something that plummeted. So that's kind of how this fly was created. Anyway, This one is in fulling mill. We have it in chub, shad, bluegill, and then like some attractor type colors like white chartreuse and stuff like that. But anyway, that's it. Any questions? Any questions on this one? Before Curtis does another stupid dry fly?